What is up? Happy Friday. We've got some afternoon baseball. The Yankees, the Red Sox starting up their seasons. Got some more home openers in the mix here. This is Live Before Lock presented by Prize Picks here on Awesemo. Pete McCarthy with Terry McBride. We're just talking about people getting voluntarily tased. So it's already been an adventurous show here. If you have any tasing stories you want to share, you can drop them in the chat. T-Mac and I somehow, some way have made it all these years on Earth without being tased once.
Yeah, neither voluntarily nor otherwise. Yeah, I guess everybody in chat can probably guess who's producing today's show by the fact that he was volunteering to be tased by the police. That's good old Tyler behind the glass here. But yeah, that was an interesting one, buddy. It's little stories of South Padre Island out in spring break times, I guess. Never made it down there. I did one spring break in Jamaica one year for like college-y spring break type stuff, but never made the South Padre ones, never made the Florida ones. Did you ever do a big spring break thing?
I did. I never looked at a map though and went to Montreal. It was both right. Stupid and genius because it was cold as hell. But there are a few places better to be when you're 18 than Canada. You kind of live a different life there. So it was actually kind of fun.
We did Montreal a bunch of times in college, and around that time too. It's great in the spring up there. They've got like the Jazz Fest or the movie festival or whatever is going on up there at that time of year. It's great town. A lot of fun.
It was phenomenal. A little bit of snow, but yeah, it's a great town. You go there, it feels like Europe. It feels like you left the country,
Right.
T-Mac.
We had a lot of playing blackjack. Last part of the story, playing blackjack in Casino de Montreal when we were like 18, 19. And they put out the cards, and if you get a 19, they're all speaking French, right? So they say, 19, which means 19 in French. But for us, it sounded like, is this enough? So we would big laughs. Oh yeah, that's enough. That's enough. Every time somebody got a 19, that was our joke.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I got knocked out real fast. I remember I had $60 to gamble with, and it's $15 minimum, and I made it like 5 hands, and then I was done.
Right.
Okay. Time to find something else.
You're like, I got $80 on me. Let's go to the casino.
The casino's not the greatest in college. Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys watching here on YouTube. We're going to be breaking down the early slate in Major League Baseball. We got 5 games on this slate. Again, the show brought to you by Prize Picks today. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much, much more. Once you do subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data, which are NBA ownership rankings, MLB player rankings, NHL player rankings, and UFC pro plays, as well as our podcast giveaway. Just head to our Awesemo podcast channel below. Give us a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username included, and you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Yankees Red Sox leading up the day. Before we get to the fantasy implications here, what are your Yankees doing, man? They're calling press conferences to say they didn't sign Aaron Judge. It's very Metsy.
Cash seemed a little bit disheartened about that one, but yeah, apparently Judgey turned down 7 years, $30.5 million a year, and he's betting on himself. So not the happiest news in Yankee world. I was hoping they'd get that done, before the season started, but it was his deadline. So it might be a little bit loose. They might still get something done. You might see something come through over the next couple of days, because that's an awfully big bet to make on yourself. So we'll see. But yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah, you see the presser, and then they're airing everything that was out there. This is the offer we made. It's usually not the best way to get a deal done. But
yeah, Cash was cards on the table. I like I said, he seemed disheartened. It seemed like he expected that deal to get done. I think he was pretty surprised they didn't take that offer. So
is that your Judge jersey?
I was actually wearing Judge yesterday. This is Thurman Munson.
Oh, okay. Thurman Munson. So he doesn't factor in
for all
today.
The people wondering if I'm wearing the same Yankee shirt as yesterday. No, this is a different Yankee shirt. There's like 12 of them in the closet.
That works. You got to have backups. You got to have backups, especially when Aaron Judge leaves in free agency now. All right, so the Yankees minus 170 on the money line here as they take on the Boston Red Sox. The stack really does like this Yankees offense today. You check out the top stacks. The Yankees are at the top of the list. They're going up against Nathan Ivaldi. It's quite the pitching matchup, right, with Ivaldi and Garrett Cole, a couple of guys that were top 4 in AL Cy Young Award voting a year ago. I guess we'll start from the Yankees offensively against Ivaldi. Does your gut like this play as much as the top stacks tool might?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're going to be stacking the Yankees a lot throughout the season. They're an offensive powerhouse of a team. They've got a ridiculous list of home run hitters. When they're healthy, this is a deadly lineup, pretty much top to bottom. We can argue about whether Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is a worthwhile hitter overall, but he at least has a decent hit tool and gets on base in front of the big thumpers. But when you've got a lineup with Josh Donaldson leading off, going into Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo, Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, I know he struggled last year, but still phenomenal hit tool, into a Joey Gallo hitting 6th. Aaron Hicks back in the lineup, a lot of power in his bat, hits from both sides of the plate, never, ever healthy. But when he is, he can get things done, and people are going to be sleeping on him. His price is low. So there's a lot to like about this lineup. Looking at the pricing, too, particularly on FanDuel, these Yankees are underpriced. 2,800 for Anthony Rizzo, mistake. 3,200 for Josh Donaldson leading off, mistake. 2,100 for Aaron Hicks is ridiculous. 2,100 for Kyle Higashioka. You don't need a catcher on FanDuel, but at 2,100, he's a capable bat. You can jam him into a lineup as a little differentiator from the 8 spot. Up and down, this Yankees lineup is definitely something that you're going to want to be a part of. They're very popular. And it rates out, in terms of our top stacks tool, they're actually still at a little bit of positive leverage on the DK slate. They're coming in with a 14% ownership share against a 15.7% probability of being the top stack. So you're still getting a little bit of positive value there on the Yanks on DK, a little bit negatively leveraged, a little more owned than their probability of being the top stack on FanDuel. But I think they're worth getting to. There are ways you can differentiate that. There are ways you can work around the ownership. So yeah, I think they're in play. Ivaldi's a very good pitcher in terms of his strikeout acumen, but he's a guy who does typically over the course of his career let guys on base. He cut down the walks last season. Excellent, 4.6% walks, only a 119 whip. But I think they can get to Ivaldi here. Will they is another story.
Well, the Yankees offense over the years has been pretty dependent on the home run, right? That's been one of those storylines talked about in New York over and over and over and over. And Josh Donaldson, he gets on base a little bit, but he's another home run guy. Joey Gallo, full season of him in this lineup, along with Anthony Rizzo. They're kind of one-trick ponies with the home runs. When you look at this time of year, look, it's cold, it's chilly. You got a good pitcher on the mound, Nathan Eovaldi. You're looking at 59 degrees at game time. It's not horrific for New York this time of year. It's not the kind of weather that we'll be seeing at Wrigley Field and talking about. But it's not exactly conducive to hitting the home run. Can the Yankees score runs in other ways? Does the weather become a factor here with a team that is so apparently so dependent on hitting that long ball?
So, yeah, I mean, they are, but we're also talking about a team where just looking at those top 6 hitters, right? Donaldson through Joey Gallo. If we're taking their on-base percentages from last year, the average on-base percentage for those 6 hitters was 354. That's well above average for the major leagues. So these guys are getting on base. Getting on base isn't really their problem. It's that sequential offense, right? This guy gets on base, then that guy gets on base, and then someone does something. Somebody hits that home run. So it's hunting for that big knock. It's hunting for that big, extra base hit. And they've got more than enough capability of doing it. We're talking about a lineup that does have some heavy strikeout numbers. People complain about that a lot with this lineup, especially Joey Gallo. Everybody knows 34.6% strikeout rate last season. Joey Gallo also walked 18% of the time last year. He's a phenomenal walk tool. He's got a phenomenal eye at the plate. He's excellent at getting on base. He's the definition of a 3 true outcomes hitter. He's going to hit you a home run. He's going to strike out, or he's going to walk and get on base. That's who Joey Gallo is. We don't care about Joey Gallo's strikeouts. We don't care about his batting average. What we care about is the titanic power and the ability to get on base. So yeah, you are gambling with that. You do need one of these guys most likely to hit one out of the ballpark with these other guys on base, but this is a lineup that can absolutely do that for you. And then you do have a couple guys like a Kiner-Falefa in the lineup now, who does have a decent hit tool. He can put bat on ball, keep the ball in play, struck out 13.3% of the time last year. Anthony Rizzo, excellent hit tool, struck out 15.1% of the time last year. DJ LeMahieu, 13.8% strikeout rate last year. So they do have guys with good hit tools interspersed between some of these power bats.
Get a super chat from R. Cathelza. Gallo, Judge, Stanton. Who would you drop for Hicks?
Might be site dependent, just looking at the pricing. But Gallo, Judge, Stanton. Who would I drop for Hicks? Probably Gallo. Just because Judge Stanton, you're getting 2 guys up toward the top of the batting order, so you might gain an extra, quarter of a plate appearance and projection wise out of doing that. And then if you drop from Gallo to Hicks, you can get Hicks maybe on the wraparound back up to Judge. It's 7 up to 2 is a little bit much to ask there, but that's probably how I would look at that.
I would take out Stanton, I think. and go Gallo Hicks right next to each other there. You get Gallo on base, talking about how much he walks. I mean, Hicks is kind of a big question mark, right? I was going to ask you about him even before the super chat. Dude hasn't played a whole lot over the years. He hasn't gotten any younger in the meantime. Like, what kind of expectations do we have for Aaron Hicks? I think Josh Donaldson, new face, new place, fine. We know what he's going to do. What the heck is Aaron Hicks at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question here. What's he going to do? Probably get hurt at some point in the next 6 weeks and then just be a mess the rest of the year. He had 581 plate appearances in 2018, best year of his career, 27 home runs that season, swiped 11 bags, 219 ISO, graded runs 29% better than average. He has never reached 400 plate appearances in his entire career outside of that year. In the last 3 seasons, granted, one of them was the shortened 2020 season, he had a full year, 54 games, 211 plate appearances that year, but that's a half a season. In the other 2 seasons, 2019, 2021, 255 plate appearances, 126 plate appearances. This guy has just not been at the plate a lot in the major leagues since 2018. So the expectation of a robust batting average, a great on base tool might be a little bit much until he finds his footing again, assuming he's healthy and in the lineup. But he does still have that power stroke. So I do still think there's the ability to put bat on ball. When he does make contact, I think he can find some quality contact and be a home run threat. And at 2,100 with under 10% ownership, I just think it's a good play for tournaments on FanDuel. 3,100 on DK, same story, under 10% ownership. So just building him in as a differentiation piece right now, I think is enough. And if you get the home run out of him, it's all gravy there.
And getting a shot at this Yankees offense, that's going to be a plus today, as we talked about. The projected to be the best stack of the day, and you have some minor positive leverage with that. Not usually the way that all goes. So that's a nice combo to have here. Now, if we just quickly hit Nathan Ivaldi, the top pitchers tool, not a fan. Is Ivaldi the bottom chance of being a top 2 pitcher of all the guys in the daytime slate here? Again, 5 games, 10 different pitchers. Ivaldi is straight up stay away for you. You get a small amount of exposure to him. What are you thinking about with Ivaldi today?
I think maybe on DK, you can work him in for a few shares. He's 3.6% owned. If you wanted to go, double that, you're not exactly risking a whole hell of a lot of your lineups. 7,400 for a guy with a 25.5% strikeout rate. Doesn't put on a ton of guys through the walk last year, 4.6%, 119 whip. There's a lot to like about Ivaldi's quality, a 12.6% swinging strike rate against a lineup that has plenty of strikeouts available. The one thing I'm just going to question is, what's the depth of start going to look like? And you're running him up against this massive, powerful lineup. So, one home run changes the entire shape of Nathan Ivaldi's day. He picks up a few strikeouts, makes it through a few innings, but then gives up a 3-run homer. And now we're kind of reset on that score. So I don't love him. 8,600 on the single pitcher site on FanDuel. I don't really want any part of it. As it's SP2, work him in on DK at 74. I think you can get away with some shares, but it's not a spot I would look to get overweight to.
You don't necessarily look to chase wins, especially early on in the season when a lot of these guys aren't even lasting 5 innings. But the Red Sox are a pretty heavy underdog in this game as well. And that's because Garrett Cole is going on the other side. Top 2 for the Cy Young vote a year ago. We know all about Garrett Cole, what he brings to the table, the strikeouts that he can deliver. And even up against this Red Sox offense, it's pretty good. It's not a bad matchup here for Garrett Cole.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Garrett Cole, one of the top pitchers in the league, 33.5% strikeout rate last season. That was down from what he's done in the past couple of years. There was the whole spin narrative and the sticky stuff and all of that last year. He might have gotten a reputational ding in people's minds through all of that nonsense that went on. He was still excellent. 2.93 xFIP, a 1.06 whip, 14.5% swinging strike rate, a 32.1% CSW. Very good at keeping the ball, in the ballpark, on the ground. I shouldn't say that. He's prone to giving up one mistake pitch. If that pitch stays in the park, he's going to have a perfectly clean start. If that pitch goes over the wall, that's where he gets dinged a little bit. So he's 9.8% barrel rate last season, 38.6% hard hit. It's a little bit more hard hit maybe than you would expect for a pitcher like that. And he's getting a little bit of fly ball, 12.5 degree average launch angle. Guys can elevate the ball, but it's just his strikeout acumen keeps him up elevated above these guys, his ability to just carve through these hitters. So I like the spot for Garrett Cole here. you're talking about a Red Sox lineup, leadoff hitter in Enrique Hernandez with an 18.8% strikeout rate. Xander Bogaerts, very nice strikeout rate. Verdugo is a thin strikeout, and Christian Vasquez down at the bottom of the lineup. But there are some heavy strikeout rates in that Red Sox lineup. Bobby Dahlbeck, Jackie Bradley, JD Martinez, middling kind of a strikeout rate. So they're a very quality lineup, but he can find his spots here. And Garrett Cole doesn't need a guy to strike out 25-30% of the time to sit him down a few times in a game. So yeah. I really like the spot for Cole here. Red Sox are frisky, though. They're a very, very good lineup.
New face for Boston, too. Trevor Story will be over there at second base for the Boston Red Sox today. Yankee fans wanted to see them make a run at him, ended up signing with the Boston Red Sox instead. So one of those little subplots for all of this. But guy moving from the National League, the American League, Colorado to Boston as it is. This game, of course, being played at Yankee Stadium. Now, how do you factor in some of those things, if at all, at this point, being that obviously with interleague play and guys moving around so much, maybe it's not as much of a difference for a guy like Trevor Story to go head to head with, say, Garrett Cole, who he probably hasn't seen a whole lot of over the last 4 years or so since Cole was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm not going to really sweat the individual matchups. Like you're saying, it's been a few years probably since they've got any significant history since they were both in the National League. You've got the Coors Field factor in there and all sorts of different matchups if you were looking back to those numbers. So we just don't get enough plate sample to worry about BVP, really. What I do like is just Trevor Story, phenomenal shortstop, phenomenal ball player in general. We've got plenty of track record over the course of his career to know that Trevor Story is going to be successful in this Boston lineup. You're getting him fairly cheap at 3,600, shortstop and second base eligible on the FanDuel slate. At 5,200, he's one of the more expensive bats in the Red Sox lineup. I still like him when you're stacking the Red Sox, but it's just a question of how much are we really going to that Red Sox stack up against Garrett Cole here. It looks like Devers is drawing some ownership on FanDuel. He's only 3,900 on FanDuel. That's pretty cheap, even going against Garrett Cole for a hitter like Rafael Devers. So his ownership's high. And then you get a little bit of ownership on Enrique Hernandez at the top of the lineup, but everybody else in that lineup is owned in the single digits, Story included. So I think where you are stacking Red Sox, you can put together some interesting combinations, and Story would definitely be a part of most of them, one of the premium shortstops on the slate.
And I can tell you the top stacks tool has the Red Sox with the highest leverage of the day. So if you want to take that shot against Garrett Cole, you can. And opening day is not the worst time to do it because what are we maxing out here? 6 innings on Cole. And then you try to take your shots against the bullpen. All the bullpens are fresh. You're probably going to get the best of the best there. We didn't see a whole lot of big time breakout performances in yesterday's games. The Cardinals led the way with 9 runs, and some people in the chat crediting Awesemo for getting them on that Cardinals stack. But as far as that goes, are you scared to go up against Garrett Cole today? Do you like that kind of leverage? Does that lead you to take some significant shots here with Boston?
It's a tricky spot, right? Because I agree with you. I don't expect Cole to go super deep into the game. I think he made 2 spring training starts, so he's not fully built up. We're talking 80, 90 pitches. The thing about throwing the bats against him, like it could be more of a reason to limit the expectations around Cole than it would be to throw Red Sox bats at him, because you're still playing that game of, all right, 2 or 3 of these plate appearances are going to be against Garrett Cole. Odds are they're not going to be successful there. So you're really playing can I squeeze enough out of 1, maybe 2 plate appearances against what is a very good Yankees bullpen with a lot of live arms in it. I don't love that approach. I think there are better spots offensively where we can go against weaker pitchers and still find some low-owned hitting. It is viable in terms of game theory where you're getting to low-owned premium bats in these Red Sox, and you're throwing them against a pitcher who's pushing 40% ownership on DK, 30% ownership on FanDuel. So from a game theory leverage perspective, yeah, you can get away with it. I don't know how frequently you're going to be successful. I don't know if you're going to be successful enough to pay that off, though.
All right, and I think this is the premium game of the day. Yankees Red Sox supposed to start up the season yesterday, pushed back to today. So they're going head to head. So we spent a little extra time on that one. Anything else to hit on this game? I think we cleared the deck there.
Yeah, I think we got through most of it. Top home run mark in this game for me is actually Rafael Devers at a 12. The magic number in my home run model is usually 10 to, you got a good chance if you're over a 10. Okay. The only 2 players over a 10 are Rafael Devers and Bobby Dahlbeck. All the Yankees under 10, interestingly. So we'll see what happens with the power there, but I thought that was worth noting in my home run model here.
So Bobby Dalbec might strike out 3 times, might go deep. That's the kind of guy you like to play sometimes in these GPPs and take a shot on. So
yep. And it could say that on the back of Bobby Dalbec's jersey. That is what he does.
GPP play. White Sox Tigers, our next game is starting up a couple minutes after the Yankees Red Sox game, less than an hour now. Again, you have some new looks in a lot of these places. The Tigers excited about what they've been able to do. You look at the lineup, it almost looks like a major league lineup now for the first time in a few years. Javier Baez, Austin Meadows just acquired last week in the mix as well. You still have Miguel Cabrera lurking here. Torkelson, the rookie, is going to be hitting 8 for Detroit. And then on the mound, Eduardo Rodriguez drawing the start against this mighty Chicago White Sox lineup, which we'll get to in a moment. We'll start with the pitching, especially for Detroit, with Erod heading from Boston to Detroit, a guy who can potentially put a lot of runners on base, but also has the ability to be shut down. This is such a tough matchup against Chicago, though. The White Sox, man, they are loaded offensively. They've been one of my favorite plays the last couple of years.
Yeah, they're a good team to stack. They're going to be in my plans all year long. Got some nice results from them last year and planning on going right back to them. No Timmy Anderson in the lineup for the White Sox. He's sitting out 2 games, I think, with a suspension. Mm-hmm. So he'll be back or at the end of the weekend. So a little bit of a downgrade. Timmy Anderson's a phenomenal player, but this lineup's still loaded. I do like Erod as a pitcher. I think he gets hit reputationally where he shouldn't necessarily. Ton of bad luck last year baked into a lot of what was going on. The whip was inflated. 1.39 whip was ugly, but there was some BABIP going on there. And just in terms of the ERA was super inflated last year. He had a 3.43 xFIP. So the underlying number is actually very good on what Erod was last year. 27.4% strikeout rate. He walked a few too many at 7%, but that's not completely egregious. Still generated 11.7% swinging strike rate. Only allowed 33.6% hard hits, 6.8% barrel rate. This is a very good pitcher. There's a reason that the Tigers went out and made him one of the first signings of the offseason. He was kind of under the radar for a lot of folks. So is this the spot to roll him out against a heavily right-handed, power hitting, excellent at getting on base type of lineup like the White Sox? Probably not. 7,100, you can take some shots on DK. He's under 3% owned. So there's nothing wrong with taking a few shots. Erod could come out and give you a quality start or excuse me, a good start here. I don't want to say quality start and imply that he's going 6 and giving you 3 or less, but I think he could give you something. I don't mind the price. I don't mind the ownership. So he's in play. He's on the board for me just as a tournament play. The odds are that they're going to get to him. The odds are that he's not going to be successful, but I think he's talented enough that he could give you something here. So as a tournament play, I do like it.
Rodriguez is throwing from the left side. The White Sox with right-handed bats and switch hitters will be fully coming at him from the right-hand side in this game. So something to keep an eye on as far as that goes. The White Sox lineup, look, you probably know most of the names at this point, but AJ Pollock has been added to the mix. He's going to lead off. Then you're looking at Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, Eloy Jimenez, Lurie Garcia. I mean, that top 6 is just absolutely loaded. It dips a little bit from there in the bottom third of the lineup. You can get some outs. But the White Sox, I mean, how much are you looking to get to them as a stack against, a capable pitcher in Rodriguez? And also, I mean, the weather's just going to be gross in this game. They should play, but there is some rain in the forecast. 40-ish degrees is what you're looking at here. Not pretty. We talk about the Yankee game not having great weather. This is going to be some ugly stuff in Detroit.
Yeah, I can actually see a little sunshine out the window here, so it's not too bad in the Jersey City area. So yeah, they'll get some decent sunshine here. It was pouring in like 40 degrees here yesterday, but that's what they're going to be dealing with in the Detroit area. I think Chicago is going to have some snow for the Cubbies game, so it'll be interesting up there, and that works in the pitcher's favor, right? That could help a guy like Erod a little bit, keep the ball in the yard. A mistake to Jose Abreu, a Yasmani Grandal, somebody like that, maybe doesn't travel over the wall in a game like this with conditions like that. So it does benefit them. That said, at reasonable ownership on both sites, a little bit lower ownership on the FanDuel slate, I do like these White Sox bats. That top 6 is ridiculous, or top 5 is ridiculous. I won't throw Lurie Garcia in there, but I do like Josh Harrison's batting 7th in that spot, and he's super cheap. And appropriately owned, 10% owned on DK, 12% owned on FanDuel at 2,100. Anything from AJ Pollock, Robert Abreu, Grondell, and Eloy Jimenez, any way that you want to put those guys together, I am on board with. They're pretty cheap. Every one of those hitters under 4,000 on the FanDuel slate. Jasmine Grondell, one of my favorite hitters to watch in the league, struck out 21.9% of the time last year, hit 23 home runs in 375 plate appearances, and walked 23.2% of the time.
That's what you like to watch, huh?
Walk rate. I love hitters like that. I love the get on base, however possible kind of a hitter. I like the modern day, the prototypical modern day hitters. 420 on base percentage for Grondell last year in his 375 plate appearances.
I like that.
One of the top hitting catchers in the league. Love getting to him where you need a catcher. Love getting to him where you don't need a catcher. Under 10% owned, hitting cleanup for this team on FanDuel. That's a mistake at 3,300. So get to extra shares of Jasmine Grondell.
Yeah, and of course, it's always nice on FanDuel when people tend to overlook the catchers, and that's fine when you have the first baseman in the same situation. So keep an eye on him in a good spot in the middle of this White Sox lineup. And as far as Lucas Giolito's matchup goes, you might just see Giolito's going up against the Tigers. Easy peasy. As I mentioned, these aren't your same old Tigers. They have added some offense this offseason. They may not yet be a good team, but they're developing. They're getting there. It's been a long process for Detroit to try to get back up the mountainside here. And Giolito, while last year, so up and down, you had some horrific days like Patriots Day up in Boston. He threw a no-hitter last year. I know Rodon did. I think Giolito was in the mix for one of those last year. But Giolito getting these Detroit Tigers. How do you like this matchup?
Yeah, you're totally right on about the Tigers. They're going to be an improved team this year. They were improving a little bit last year. I saw something on MLB Network yesterday. Somebody in the chat might have caught the same thing, but after a certain point in the season, it was early. It was like May something. They were 7 games over 500 the rest of the way. So this was actually a scrappy team last year, and they're improved. You mentioned Torkelson hitting 8th in the lineup today, 2,200 on FanDuel, 2,100 on DK. You're going to want to be in the Spencer Torkelson business in the next couple of months and throughout the course of the season. He's a phenomenal prospect. Hitting 8th, not ideal for stacking purposes, but you can build a nice little late lineup stack with like a Jonathan Scope, Akil Baddoo, Spencer Torkelson, 3-man, 6, 7, 8 for super cheap. All those guys under 3,000 on FanDuel, pretty cheap on the DK slate. It wouldn't be totally bananas to throw Miguel Cabrera in at the top of that in the 5th spot. Miggy still got a bat, 256, 316, 386 last year. Definitely not the production we expect from a guy with Miguel Cabrera on the back of his jersey, only a 129 ISO, 15 home runs. But I still think there's a little life in that bat. So you can get to him. The top end of the lineup, though, is where the more productive, better hitters are. I like Austin Meadows quite a bit. Javi Baez, definitely still a viable guy in terms of DFS. And all of these bats are cheap. So going up against Lucas Giolito, you're throwing him against middling ownership, 22.3% ownership on DK, 11.9% ownership on the FanDuel slate. I kind of lean a little bit into getting to some of these cheap Tigers hitters and throwing them against Giolito here. I do think he's a very good pitcher, but he's a 27.9% strikeout rate guy, 7.2% walks. He was better with the not allowing hits than he was with putting guys on base via the walk. So he kept the whip to 1.10 last year and a 15.3% strikeout rate. So he's very good at generating swing and miss, but he does, put a few guys on base via the walk. The right situation, you can get to Lucas Giolito, like you were saying. There were a couple blips last year. He doesn't project out great for me for whatever reason. I think it's some of the Tigers' quality coming through. So I think I'd rather be on the Tigers side of this one. That said, you can definitely mix in, and I would across 150 lineups, definitely mix in some Lucas Giolito shares. He's top end pitcher, and the price is fine at least. The DraftKings price is arguably low at 8,400.
Yeah, he can give up some runs, 1.4 home runs per 9 inning last year. So you do that against him, the strikeouts for him if you want to take a shot. But certainly one of those areas where Giolito could shove for 5 innings, or you can see the Tigers. And I like the bottom of that Tigers lineup that you talked about there, the 6, 7, 8. You can even mix in Grossman at the top end and wrap it around. There's a couple of things you could do in this game. So White Sox, Tigers, again, whether you want to keep an eye on, but it should be pretty safe at this point. Can't say the same for Brewers, Cubs. Weather's going to be a big factor here. Potential fade game. I think this is something you're really going to want to watch over the course of the next 2 hours. Still have a little ways until this game starts up. Obviously, you want to keep an eye on things before lock the next 40 minutes or so. But Brewers, Cubs, Brandon Woodruff, Justin Steele going head-to-head here. And we'll start with the home pitcher, Justin Steele. he's looked at as a value guy going up against the Brewers, not someone that I'm all that familiar with over the year, getting the start second day. These aren't your John Lester, Jake Arrieta Cubs anymore.
No, they're definitely not. I had Justin Steele on my screen a minute ago, and I clicked away from him by accident. So I'm pulling him up in Fangraphs here. Steele is not a premium prospect. He's got okay stuff in terms of our traditional scouting grades. We're talking about a 50 grade fastball, 45 grade curve, 40 grade change, 40 grade command. So traditional scouting doesn't love him. He's ranked as their 36th overall prospect for the team, not in the league. So that's not a great prospect pedigree. And he's been a 20-ish% strikeout rate guy through the minors, 24.7 in AA 2 years ago, 26.4% last year in AAA, but an 11.8% walk rate with that. It's not exactly dazzling numbers. And, you would think that would have a problem translating to the major league level going up against major league hitters. He's likely to look a little worse. Across 57 innings in 9 starts last year at the major league level, 23.8% strikeout rate, 10.9% walk rate, 1.35 whip. That's getting a little ugly. The swinging strikes are nice. 11.3% swinging strikes is slightly above average, but he wasn't throwing enough called strikes, 28.6% CSW. So just not working in the zone well enough. He avoided barrels, avoided hard hits to an okay degree last year. So he's a middling type of a pitcher. A lefty going up against this lineup with a lot of at least decent righties, a righty like Hunter Renfroe with a ton of power, Andrew McCutchen in the middle of that lineup, Christian Yelich I'm not worried about from the left side of the plate going up against the lefty like this. So I don't love the spot for him. Maybe you can find the right spots for him when he's 5,200, 5,500 later in the season. If you absolutely positively need that salary value, this is probably your guy. But man, it's asking a lot for not a good pitcher. So
look, in the past, it was a little easier to get to a guy like Steele in this spot, right? You could say, well, the Brewers aren't exactly an elite offense. I could throw a dart, load up with Yankees, more expensive hitters in another spot, and then see if Steele can survive for 4 or 5 innings and maybe end up doing okay. But now you have the universal DH. It doesn't help. You replace a pitcher with Andrew McCutchen in this Brewers lineup. It makes it a lot more difficult to try to gut your way through a few innings, which is kind of what we're looking at from Justin Steele in this matchup. And again, you're going to want to watch the rain, especially with the pitching, if they're going to be able to play this game. The weather, if they are able to play, it isn't going to be very friendly for offense. And with that in mind, Brewers offense against Steele, do you stay away because of the way the weather is setting up here? How much does that factor into what would otherwise be a pretty nice matchup?
So, I think I'm going to need to have some Brewers here. Just looking at it, I just dropped the confirmed lineup in, changed things around. We've got McCutchen leading off here, Hunter Renfroe hitting 4th. I really like both of those bats in this spot. What I'm really liking in my projections with this update is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in the lineup at or above that 10 number in my home run model. So we're seeing a lot of power trending through for the Brewers here. So that's McCutchen, Adames, Yelich, Renfroe, and Tyrone Taylor.
I always love Taylor.
Mark.
What is Taylor on DraftKings? He's usually like 2,300 and has the ability to go yard. And now you don't have to worry about getting taken out as much because you have the DH in the mix. I mean, I think it's a good spot.
Should see a full game, hit 12 home runs in 271 plate appearances last season. Could stand to improve his barrel rate and his hard hit a little bit. And I think that'll translate into him being an even better hitter. So probably somebody that people are going to be sleeping on. He's the dead minimum hitting 6 on FanDuel. He's actually 3,300. So they gave him a little bit of juice on the DK slate, but that's still relatively cheap. Kissenhira hitting 5th also right in front of him, 2,700 on DK, 2,000 also the dead minimum on FanDuel. So you got the 5 and the 6 hitter in this lineup, both at the dead minimum. Kissenhira really struggled, got sent back down last season, 197 plate appearances last year in the majors, 168, 256, 301 triple slash. Ouch, that's ugly. Kissenhira has a really highly regarded hit tool all the way up through the minors. This was a premium hitting prospect. I don't think that talent completely abandoned him. In that small sample that didn't translate to his statistics last year, he still managed a 15.2% barrel rate and a 41.4% hard hit rate. Kissenhira is a player to watch, especially at 2,000 at the dead minimum, hitting 5th behind those quality bats. That's an interesting player for me today. So yeah, I'm going to be getting to some Brewers here, I think.
All right, so get some Brewers, and that's a lot of home run power that you have in the mix if they can get it out. Some tough weather in Chicago today, so we'll see if they can pull that off. Now on the other side, you got Brandon Woodruff starting for Milwaukee against what is left of this Cubs lineup. I mean, that exodus kind of happened midway through last season, but for Woodruff, I mean, fantastic last year. Ryan Corbin Burns ends up in the mix for the Cy Young, winning the Cy Young. Woodruff had himself a 2.5 ERA. He was just fine, struck out over 10 batters per 9 innings, and a quality matchup. And if the game plays, the weather should be in his favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a ace level pitcher, 29.8% strikeout rate last year, 0.96 whip, just keeps guys off base so well. 32.4% hard hit, a 5.8% barrel rate, keeps the ball in the yard, 86.2 miles an hour of average exit velocity. It's difficult to put premium contact on Brandon Woodruff. This Brewers pitching staff is elite. They are really, really good. So yeah, we're going to be rostering a lot of Brewers pitching, I think. And this is a great spot going up against what like you mentioned, a pretty weak Cubs lineup. I do still think Ian Happ is a very, very good hitter. I like Ian Happ a lot. Wilson Contreras, if they're not hitting him with the pitch, has a chance to put a good bat on the ball. He got plunked again yesterday. Wasn't too happy about it. The Brewers have hit him like 10 times over the last 3 years or something like that. And he gets pissed every time. But he's an interesting bat there. Seiya Suzuki, the import from the Japanese league, potential to be a star caliber hitter, but overall, this is just not a good lineup up and down. You've got a lot of heavy strikeout rate guys, a lot of guys pushing 30% last year, including Clint Frazier, Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ, several other guys I just mentioned. Jonathan Villar at 26.1%, Patrick Wisdom at a 40%.
Right, I'm going to cut you off. The chat is saying the game's postponed, so we don't have to go. We can erase the last 10 minutes. I haven't confirmed that, so yeah, just keep an eye on it. But
we'll fix it.
They're saying in the chat it's postponed, so I'm going to assume that's the case, and we'll jump on to the next one. And so now we're looking at a 4-game slate. I mean, look, these are like small slates. It's weird opening day because we know the starting pitchers aren't going to be going 7 innings in these games. How does a slate shrinking like this factor into what you're going to do, what your plays are going to be, how you're going to attack some of these stacks with the way it sets up?
Yeah, so it's suddenly going to make the leverage conversation a little bit more important. We're going to need to, concentrate on those lower owned combinations of hitters. We don't need to, when we talk about that, we're saying over the course of across the entire lineup, you want to have a sequence of hitters who are not owned frequently together. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go out and roster 4 guys at 1% ownership and just, cherry pick guys from different lineups. You still want to be stacking. You still want to be looking at hitter combinations, but maybe we do something like what we were talking about with the Yanks, where we're taking out a Gallo, putting in a lower owned Hicks, somebody like that. You make one change like that in the lineup and you're setting yourself off on a different path than most of the field is going down. So just thinking a little bit more heavily about those lower owned combinations, maybe a little bit lower owned combinations on the 2 pitcher sites where you're going to a differentiated second starter along with maybe the secondary ace rather than going directly to Garrett Cole. Maybe you go down the board to, Aaron Nola, let's say, and, a few fewer people are going to him. So there are ways to dance around it, but the ownership is definitely going to tighten up on this slate. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we have it confirmed now that this game is postponed. Appreciate you guys in the chat letting us know and making that happen. So as far as things go now, we're looking at a 4-game slate as we were talking about a little bit here, and we'll get into some of the later games. But good they were able to get that in before lock for Yankees Red Sox, where one thing bleeds into another, and you can't get to as many Yankees as maybe you would have otherwise. Red Sox, if you're going in that direction and looking at the leverage. So good that we find out with about 30 minutes to spare. Hey, celebrate the return of baseball with a $1 Express weekly pass. This pass includes our player rankings, ownership rankings, lineup builder, and our expert Discord chat. You can use promo code FASTBALL at the checkout page, or simply just click the link in the video description below to activate this offer. It's a great way to get started with MLB DFS, so sign up before this offer expires on April 11th. And for those of you that are new to MLB DFS, the weather is a big factor. You can't just plug and play and not think about it. It is a huge factor in all this. What games you're going to fade? You end up becoming an amateur meteorologist, the whole thing. But new tool that's pretty cool is the chance of postponement that you can now find on the projections from Awesemo. Help you make an informed decision as far as that goes, because the least thing you want is to have a bunch of one team stacked. Let's say it is, this White Sox game now, and then it gets rained out and you're left with a bunch of players who put up zeros and effectively knock you the heck out. So you want to be up on the weather and have an idea of what's happening. It is absolutely vital. Maybe the number one thing to know if you're playing baseball for the first time this year and trying to get a handle on everything, is know what the weather is going to be and make those decisions ahead of time. And Awesemo could certainly help you out with that. And that's what we're here for with these shows as well. All right, let's get to A's Phillies. Frankie Montas, Aaron Nola. Look, the A's are one of those lineups now that's pretty anonymous, right? We see the big exodus: Chris Bassett, Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, all sent out of town. No Starling Marte, no Mark Canha. I mean, you work your way down the line. This is not going to be the same old A's team. I don't really mind them in this spot, though. They get Aaron Nola, who did not put up a very good ERA last year, was felled by his defense. And this Phillies defense actually worse this year. Now you're adding Kyle Schwarber to the mix out there in left field. I wouldn't be surprised to see the A's pull out a victory here. I had this as one of my best bets at plus 155. You can check out that video elsewhere here on Awesemo.
There you go. I am on the other side of that one. I am a big Aaron Nola fan. He's projecting out as my top pitcher on my projections. Looking at last year for Nola, the ERA was a little bit ugly, got dinged by that defense. But what he can control, he had a 3.37 xFIP, a 5.2% walk rate, 29.8% strikeouts, 12.8% swinging strike rate. I'm an Aaron Nola believer here.
The defense still stinks. Like, it would be one thing if they got better.
Sucks. Yeah, no, the defense sucks. But so do these hitters. We're talking about a lineup with Tony Kemp, Billy McKinney, Sean Murphy, Chad Pinder, Seth Brown. Stop me when it gets to somebody that is a talented major league player. I do like the bat for Sean Murphy. I do like the bat for Seth Brown. I think those guys have nice power, solid quality contact marks, barrel rate, hard hit rate from last season. If you're looking to get into A's, I would definitely want to include either one of those in an A's stack. And then you can get away with Tony Kemp. Had a decent little year in 397 plate appearances last year, a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. I don't love that lineup, though. It's not really where I'm going. Lineup.
Yeah. They just have to put the ball in play.
Right. But for DFS purposes, though, like if you're looking at the FanDuel pricing 1 through 9, the average salary is $2,200. That's $200 above the minimum on the average. So they're super cheap. You can, and it's baseball. So we're talking about an any given day kind of a sport that you don't really have to, it's not like in basketball where we're just, rostering a bunch of 0.5 fantasy point per minute players and hoping that they get enough minutes. It's baseball. So you can get there. It's unlikely. They're going up against a very good pitcher. I am firmly on the other side of that one.
No, I wouldn't be stacking a whole lot of these guys, but yeah, they can score some runs here. And look, the Phillies, we talk about the Yankees being a team that's going to be dependent on the home run. The Phillies are going to be dependent on the home run. That's going to be what they have to do. You look at Philly today, much like New York, 59 degrees. It'll be sunny, but not that June weather where I could see this team hitting 6 home runs in a game routinely at Citizens Bank Park. And you're dealing with Frankie Montas here for the Philadelphia Phillies. So I was looking at the, who wins the game and playing, the plus minus on that. But yes, Aaron Nola in a good spot here with this matchup. And while the ERA could scare you off from last year, as you mentioned, the underlying numbers very good if his team can actually catch some pop-ups this year. And then on the other side, Frankie Montas dealing with this now powerful lineup that adds Kyle Schwarber, that adds Nick Castellanos, that already had Bryce Harper and Rhys Hoskins in the mix here. What do you make of Frankie Montas, the one guy that stuck around here for the A's, getting a shot at a lineup that's going to have the ability to hit a lot of home runs as we get deeper in the year?
Yeah, this Phillies lineup is ridiculous. It's just an embarrassment of riches over there. I think Montas is a talented guy. He's a little bit of a roller coaster at times, but he, pulled it together for a pretty nice season last year. 26.6% strikeout rate, 3.64 xFIP. What I like is the swinging strike rate, 13.7% swinging strikes, a nice swinging strike rate. 42.2% hard hit at an 11.6 degree average launch angle, 89.3 miles an hour average exit velo, 8.7% barrel rate. We're starting to talk about some numbers in terms of the contact in a hitter's park against a lineup like this that could lead to some power. It's not totally coming through in my model. I'm not seeing massive home run numbers, but they're all good home run numbers for the top end of that lineup from Schwarber down through Rhys Hoskins. So I'd be on the Phillies side of this one if I'm choosing between the pitcher or the stack. I think at 9,200 on FanDuel and under 2% ownership for tournaments, you can definitely take some shots on Frankie Montas there. I don't think he's a lousy pitcher by any means. The strikeouts are there to support him having an okay game. And with nobody on him, you're paying a premium to do it, but there's not going to be anybody there. So if he does come through, you're giving yourself a nice little advantage over the field there. But you're definitely paying the price to do it. 7,800, he's drawing more ownership on DK. I think everything's appropriate over there. You can take some shots, be around the field on DK, but I prefer the Phillies lineup side of this one. And they're pretty affordable on the FanDuel slate. DK, they're priced up pretty aggressively, but you can still get there. You can stack them together. Didi is low owned and interesting to me. 2,200 on FanDuel, 12.8% ownership, 7.2% ownership for 39 on DK. I think on both sides, Didi's a little interesting lefty righty here.
What are we looking at with Bryson Stott? Eric wrote in the chat, get some Stott exposure. Kid is legit. One of those, I don't know how highly touted a prospect he is, but he did have to make the team out of spring training, gets the opportunity as the starting third baseman here for the Philadelphia Phillies. And it is different this year where you actually do have good prospects on these opening day rosters, something that we hadn't seen in years because teams be trying to extend that service time out another year and wait a couple of weeks until mid to late April to call up these guys. But now, someone like Bryson Stott has a good spring training, gets an opportunity as a rookie to show what he can do.
Yeah, and he's going to be in there. He's taking at-bats away from Alec Boehm over there. They had a few guys make the team. Mickey Moniak was another premium prospect. He ended up getting hurt and out for 6 weeks, so it made a little bit more room on the roster. So, yeah, Stott is a premium prospect as well. I think he's their number 2 or number 3, depending on where you're looking. So it's a decent bat. He's hitting late in the lineup. He's hitting 8th. After Gene Segura, ahead of Matt Vierling. He's getting a little bit of ownership attention. He's a little bit slightly under 10% on FanDuel, 12.4% on DK. The price is right. It's 2,200 on both sites, third base and shortstop eligible on the FanDuel slate. I think that people are going to be there, but I don't it's not a bad call by any means. It's just, you're not gaining much advantage. You're getting a nice price on a decent hitter, but people are going to be there, would be my assessment of it. But yeah, it's certainly a fine call out for a hitter to look for.
No, ownership is always key, and you hope people don't know who the heck is Bryson Stott. Who is this guy? I'm gonna mess around with this, and you get that 8 spot in the lineup. Sometimes not the worst. You can wrap it around a little bit, and you get to the big guns in the not too distant future there. But there you go, Aaron Nola, Frankie Montas, Phillies, A's. That'll be a later start today at 3:05 Eastern time, and around the same time, it'll be the final game of the early portion of the proceedings. The Orioles, they take on the Tampa Bay Rays there at the Trop. The Orioles kind of like the same team. I mean, so many we talk about what's new, who is added, what's a mix. The Orioles are a bad team last year. It's almost the exact same lineup that you're looking at. You still have John Means as the opening day starter. Not a whole lot to be super excited about here. It's why Shane McClanahan, if you could trust the Rays to allow a pitcher to go 4+ innings here, can be in the mix.
Yeah, that's going to be where we're getting dicey, right? You got the beginning of the season factors, the short spring training factors, the fact that it's the Rays and they do fun, interesting things with their pitching staff. They invented the concept of the opener a few years ago. So, I mean, it's dicey of whether he gets there or not. But I think at 6,600 on the DK slate, it's well worth taking the shot against this lineup. The one issue is that he's going to be 40% owned over there. So you're going to be riding with a lot of the field. And if he comes out of the game early after 3 innings or something, you're going to be shot in the foot with a lot of the field. I'd rather be on not the other side, meaning the Orioles, but I'd just rather be on the other side of that equation, not taking that risk along with so much of the field. So I think I'm taking some of those shares and just kind of spreading them around on the DK slate. At 8,700 on FanDuel, he's drawing 10% ownership. That's a shot that I think is much more worth taking. You're paying more to do it. Again, kind of like the other pitcher we were talking about before with Montas. I think you're paying a premium to get some of that ownership shook off, right? So we're getting rid of a lot of the field by doing that. So I like him a little bit better on the one pitcher site. 27.3% strikeout rate last season, 3.23 xFIP, lots of likes, 14.8% swinging strike rate against a bad lineup with plenty of strikeout rate in it. Robinson Chirinos down toward the back end of the lineup, 32%, a lot of guys over the 25% range, even a quality hitter like Ryan Mountcastle, 27.5% last year. So this is very much a lineup that you get when you only spend 56%, I think it was, of Jake DeGrom's salary on your entire team. That's what the Orioles are. So yeah, I'm going to like a lot of pitchers going up against this lineup throughout the season. At times they can be frisky, but I think McClanahan's good enough to overcome that. The only issue with McClanahan is that ownership and the potential of coming out of the game early.
Yeah, I just get nervous with the Rays. You don't know exactly where these starters stand, how they're going to handle them. They're very careful with them, especially early on in the season. Weather's not a factor here. Dome Stadium's in Tampa, but one of those things that you just gotta have a feeling about with the way the Tampa Bay Rays have done things.
And they've got a lot of those hybrid arms too that can start, that can relieve, that can come out for 3 innings out of the pen. So it's easy for them to do those things and make those decisions. And you're talking about a Rays team that has 2 extra guys on the roster with the 28-man roster.
They'll use them.
They're just going to be mixing and matching like crazy through the beginning of the season.
Yeah, in the first month of the season, they can still option guys up and down all they want. So they can basically run a 25-man pitching staff out there. They've done at times. So yeah. Might be a 4-hour game there in Tampa if they decide to play that way, but we'll see how it goes. On the other end, John Means going against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays doing all the broadcasters a favor by putting Brandon Lau and Josh Lowe back together. Same spelling, different pronunciation. But now you get Wander Franco for a full season, hitting that second spot. I mean, you love a guy, we talk about the sophomore slump and all that kind of stuff, but you get a second year of development for a kid as young as Wander Franco. Has had a taste of the majors now. See what he could do hitting that second spot in the lineup, which is basically the premier spot in baseball now to be hitting. So for Wander Franco, they have high expectations for him and what he could do there. Mike Zunino is always a guy I like throwing a dart on, has the ability to hit home runs, usually isn't all that expensive. Hitting 6 today for Tampa Bay. What do you make of what we got here in this Rays lineup? Always shifting guys in and out. No more Austin Meadows, but still a lot of good, young, talented players.
Yeah, they moved a very talented hitter in Austin Meadows out to make room for Josh Lowe because he's such a premium prospect in the lineup against the lefty as a lefty today. I was wondering if he was going to be in there, rookie first or second game in the majors, but they stuck him in there in the 7 spot. So I'm confident in getting to him. 2,600, 2,800 across the 2 sites, still very cheap. And we're going to see a lot of that. You mentioned Wander Franco. I think even Wander's price on the FanDuel slate at 3,600 is cheap relative to the entire rest of the slate. He's one of the more expensive Rays bats, but I think relative to a lot of other guys, he's fairly cheap for his talents. He's a ridiculously talented kid. And we just got such an embarrassment of riches at the shortstop position, in terms of these young kids coming up with Witt starting with, we've got, O'Neal Cruz from the Pirates going to be coming up in the next few weeks. He's a beast. We've got Wander. We've got a lot of talent coming up at shortstop. So it's interesting, but yeah, I think we can get to Wander here. I'm seeing nice power marks in my home run model for the Rays going up against John Means. Brandon Lau is my leader in my home run model. He is my home run pick for the day, or for this slate, I should say. The official one goes in the article for the main slate later on. Mike Zunino was right next to him. They were 2 of the top 3 names with Hunter Renfroe jammed in between them. So that's the top 3 on my board. So I like getting to this Rays team. I like getting to some of that power. Zunino is absolutely elite in terms of his power stroke. He also strikes out a ton, 35.2% strikeout rate last season, but he hit 33 home runs and 375 plate appearances and had a 342 ISO. That is absurd power. He had 24.3% barrel ball rate. He wasn't a qualified hitter at 375 plate appearances, but that led the majors among everybody that had, any kind of reasonable number of plate appearances. That was, I think, 2 percentage points ahead of Shohei Ohtani's barrel ball rate last season. Just a ridiculous power hitter in Mike Zunino. So always happy to take shares of him. Yes. And people asked about John Means in our Discord earlier this morning, whether people want to get to him as an SP2. He's 6,100 on the DK slate, and he's owned less than 10% of the time. I think that is my preferred SP2 on DK. I really would prefer going to that over a Justin Steele for 5,200. But I don't believe in it at all. I don't think John Means is going to succeed here. I don't think he's going to have a good game. But if I'm going to that bargain basement SP2, I would prefer to get to him than Justin Steele. There's a little bit more to believe in with John Means, but I do think that John Means is one of the luckier pitchers in baseball over the beginning of his career. If we're looking at batting average on balls in play, he had ridiculously low batting average on balls in play numbers to support what he's done throughout his career. And if you look at like his xFIP and his FIP numbers, they don't support that he's a talented pitcher. So Means is a guy that I never really like getting to. And I think he's been very, very lucky just to generate some weak contact right at fielders throughout his career. Over the course of last year, 10.1% barrel ball rate, 37.6% hard hit. The barrel ball rate is high. The hard hit is reasonable. It's okay. But a 20.3 degree average launch angle, guys are able to elevate the ball against this guy. That plays into the home run upside for the Rays here. So I don't like John Means. Like I said, a DK at 6,100, he's my SP2 of the day, but I don't like it. 8,100 on FanDuel, he wouldn't be in play for me.
Come on, he's an opening day starter here, Terry.
on the Orioles. I mean, I think you, me, and Tyler were potential candidates to take the next start as far as the Orioles rotation goes.
The Orioles, they strike me as the major league team that would volunteer to be tased. Bring it all full circle. You got to stick around for the show for 54 minutes to get that one. But yeah, all right. So we got a four game slate here with the Brewers and the Cubs. That game banged. One of my favorite baseball terms. Banged. Rain, postponed. So that won't be happening. White Sox, Tigers, when you want to keep an eye on as far as the weather goes. So be sure to do that. But that one should be good to go. Of course, this show brought to you by Prize Picks. These are daily prop-based contests. Make sure you use promo code Awesemo for a $100 first match deposit bonus. You don't have to worry about sharks, optimizers, mass entries. 5-player lineups can get you 10 times your entry fee. Download the App Store on Google Play or play on prizepicks.com. You also get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up using the link in the description of this video and make a deposit as Prize Picks to receive your email within 24 to 48 hours to redeem your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One thing I did like on Prize Picks is the over-unders on runs in the first inning, particularly Yankees Red Sox and Athletics Phillies. I know the Phillies lineup, we talked about how loaded it is, but first inning, pitchers are fresh, raring to go. Weather is not exactly in the hitter's favors. I like the unders on those. Get some zeros in that first inning. What do you make of that, Terry?
Yeah, I don't mind that. You're talking about, especially if you're looking at that Yankees Red Sox game, you're talking about a premium pitcher in Garrett Cole going up against what are good hitters in that Red Sox lineup. And then, the Red Sox nominal ace, Nathan Ivaldi, who is a very good pitcher. I'll give him that much credit. Going up against
Cy Young. I mean, come on, begrudgingly. Yeah, he's okay.
Begrudging credit, but I kind of wish that he had stuck around with the Yanks and put up these numbers when he was here. But you get Josh Donaldson, Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo. It's a little tough to say that they're not likely to put a run up. I mean, not likely to put a run up is relative for baseball, but if you're cherry picking one of the lineups that's more likely to score than not, it would probably be these Yankees or those Phillies. But in any situation, I think we're getting a decent chance of just no run gets scored, no event happens in any given inning. So I would probably, exactly. Pick any inning.
Kyle Gashioka can go deep in the second, and the Yankees can be off and running, and you guys can, play that bomb, 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 whatever the Yankee sound is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I miss the siren, the home run siren. I just love that.
The good old days. I miss. I'm a Mets guy. I miss Who Let the Dogs Out, but I'm a little dated here.
There you go.
Of course, we got the Awesemo Hall of Fame. You haven't been in it? You want to be in it. It's a good place to be. There's a lot of money in it too. Awesemo.com/avatar. I should say you don't get a whole lot of money for being in the Hall of Fame, but what gets you there can win you some money. You place in a top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants. All you got to do, tweet the win to @Awesemo HOF. Have that Awesemo avatar on whatever platform you're playing, and you get your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. There's some money savings for you. So be sure to have some fun with that. Make it happen for you. Get into the Hall of Fame. I've always said you should have to give a speech, but people don't like that. They don't want to, write something out and all the thank yous. So it's okay. You don't have to do that. You just get yourself the free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So if you haven't done it already, make sure you change your avatar. You can go awesemo.com/avatar, download it, throw it up on DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever you're playing, and you get top 3 in a contest with over 5,000 contestants. You're not only cashing in there, you tweet, and you get yourself a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One note, only 1 free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. So be sure to make that happen. All right, some more big picture things with this slate changing a little bit. If you had to do or die with one stack today, T-Mac, where are we going?
So for this early slate, I just threw in one lineup just so I'd have something in there, but I wasn't going overboard since I was going to be on the show and then got an article and another show to do. So I threw in just a stack with some of those Rays. I mentioned I really like the Rays power. I went with a little bit of a weird lineup because I was putting it together during the show and I got a little distracted and forgot which team I was stacking. So I've actually got some White Sox. I've got Kiston Hira and some Tigers in here as well. So I've got a Javi Baez and Spencer Torkelson. So it looks like I built like a 2-3-1-1 which is not a normal construction for me. But like I said, I was got a little sidetracked with who I was putting in there. I've got Aaron Nola on the bump. I really like the spot for Nola here. So we'll see how it does. It's not a great lineup. I like all the hitters that are in it, but the correlation is probably a little light. But I've got my guy Jasmine Grondell in there. I've got Eloy Jimenez in there. So it's a weird little lineup. We'll see how it plays.
No Zunino. I thought we agreed.
No Zunino. Like I said, I wandered off. Ideally, I would have instead in the spot where I've got Torkelson in the util, I would have put Zunino there. He would have been stacked with Brandon Lau and Randy Arozarena, which would have been a better lineup. So yeah,
especially after you took 3 minutes just destroying poor John Means.
Right. Well, I went with
stats.
I went with my home run pick in there though, so I do have the Brandon Lau lefty home run in there. So we'll see how that does.
All right, get it done. So there you go. Some of the top stacks today, as we're looking at it. Of course, the Yankees, the most likely team to score a bunch of runs today, as far as top stack tool. And I think being that it's not opening day. It's opening day for some of these teams, but a lot of people are new to playing baseball. You talked about your regular stack construction, and you can check out Alex Awesemo Baker's video on how he puts together lineups using Fantasy Cruncher, which gives you a good idea of what are some winning lineup combinations as well. DraftKings doing a lot of 5-3 stacks. FanDuel, maybe it's a 4-4 that you're looking at there, because you can max out 4 players on the same team on FanDuel. What are you typically looking at with stacks? And then how does that get affected when it is just a 4-game slate, like we're looking at this early slate today? Not your typical Friday where sometimes you have 14, 15 games to be messing around with.
Yeah, so I'm always looking to stack, and I actually am and jumping back in this because I realized I still have time to fix this lineup, so I don't have to just enter a lineup that I think is terrible. So we'll jump in and we'll work on it while we're going through this. But yeah, you always want to be stacking. The reason behind stacking is that baseball is a sport where there's extreme correlation in these scoring events, right? If a guy walks, he gets points for his walk. He's on first base. The next guy doubles, sends him over to third. That guy gets points for his double. You've got first and third. Then the next guy comes up, hits you a 3-run home run. We're getting runs from each of the base runners for that. We got their hit points. We're getting the RBIs for the guy who hit the home run. We're getting his run. We're getting the home run points. So you just
build, then you get more at bats.
And you get, as these lineups turn over, if they're going well, you see more plate appearances for each player. So it's just got an increase effect. If you get an extra plate appearance from a guy that you expect to go 5 times, you're getting a 20% boost in what that projection should be, because you're getting that additional opportunity. So you're getting the additional plate appearance factor. You're getting the correlated scoring, the rising tide factor. And it just beats the idea of throwing the darts at a bunch of different hitters. Alex and I talked about that yesterday in the strategy segment of our show that we did, and we went through a lot of different combinations and reasons why we want to stack. And yeah, thank you for the person in chat who pointed out that Hero's game was canceled. I am in the process of getting him out of that lineup as well. So we always want to be chasing full stacks. Primarily for me on FanDuel, I'm building 4 4s or 4 3s and getting to as many of the correlated hitters as I can. On DK, you want to be looking at a 5-man stack, and you can build in, you can go 5-2-1, you can go 5-3, you can go 5-1-1-1 on DK. You get a little bit more room to play with things like that on the DraftKings slate where you're booking 5 hitters from that same lineup.
All right, let's get this out. I'm sorry, Double R had the super chat earlier. Missed part of the show, is wondering how you felt about Detroit as a contrarian stack on FanDuel.
Yeah, we kind of liked Detroit as a contrarian stack on FanDuel. They're a little bit frisky. You've got bad weather up there, like we talked about. You've got a very good pitcher in Lucas Giolito on the bump, but they're a better lineup than they have been over the course of time, and they're fairly inexpensive, and they're not getting a lot of ownership. So I think you can go there. You do have on the FanDuel slate Javi Baez pulling in 20.4% ownership, and that might have gone up after we lost that Cubbies game. So maybe watch out for Javi Baez. But getting around, we talked about that back end that Jonathan Scope, Akil Baddoo, Spencer Torkelson 6, 7, 8 stack as a totally contrarian one. I don't dislike doing something like that.
All right, and Double O, we appreciate your patience on that. Should have hit that a little bit earlier on in the show here, but hopefully you get some time to make use of the analysis there from our guy Terry. But look, we got a lot of baseball content still to come here. There are multiple slates throughout the day. So you got MLB Live before lock again coming up at 4 o'clock Eastern time with Aton, and Terry will be back for that as well. Of course, you got Fan Up NBA Weekend Ballin' coming up in 20 minutes. NBA Deeper Dive starts up at 5 o'clock Eastern. It's a wild time right now. The Masters, you got some a big UFC event tomorrow. There is a lot happening here. We're going to have the play-in tournament starting up for the NBA. You still have NHL as well. So, of course, you want to be all locked in with everything Awesemo has to offer, both here on YouTube and on the website. Get yourself some big days here and make it happen. You can keep yourself busy. Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, or giveaways. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. This has been MLB Strategy, presented by Prize Picks. For Terry McBride, I'm Pete McCarthy. Take care.